Jack thought he was buying an abandoned cabin to disappear from the world. But his dog, Titan, found something hidden behind the rotting walls. A sealed steel door, dated 1985. Behind it, a military secret so dangerous that someone had already come to erase it. The power was cut. The storm was closing in. And through the falling snow, Jack realized the truth. Tonight, the blizzard was not the only thing hunting them. The blizzard hammered against the windshield of the parked truck, burying the world in white. Jack killed the engine. The silence that followed was heavy and cold. He sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. His knuckles were scarred, the skin weathered by years of harsh sun and biting wind. He caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, messy salt and pepper hair, eyes that had seen too much, and the graying stubble of a man who had stopped caring about appearances long ago. "Let's go, partner," Jack rasped. Beside him, Titan moved. The massive German shepherd did not bark. He simply sat up, his silver and gray coat bristling slightly as he looked at the dark cabin ahead. The dog possessed a calm, athletic power, moving with the calculated grace of a soldier rather than a pet. Inside the cabin, the air was freezing. Jack knelt by the stone fireplace, his heavy brown canvas jacket stiff with cold. He struck a match. As the fire caught, he pulled a faded red wool stocking from his bag. He held it for a long time. It was a small, foolish tradition, but it was the only one he had left. He hung it on a rusty nail. Titan whined softly, nudging Jack's elbow with a wet nose. Jack managed a faint, tired smile and rested his hand on the dog's broad head. "I know, boy," Jack whispered. "Just this once." But the moment of peace was shattered. Jack stepped out to the porch to check the woodpile and froze. Near the window, the snow was disturbed. He crouched down. There, half buried, was a cigarette butt. Jack picked it up. It was fresh. The brand was Sobrani, imported, expensive. Jack crushed the filter in his fist. He looked at the dark forest. Someone had been standing right here, watching the empty house, and they were likely still watching. Titan would not settle down. The German shepherd paced back and forth in front of the east wall, his claws clicking rhythmically on the floorboards. He stopped, pressed his nose against a seam in the wood paneling, and let out a sharp, demanding bark. Jack trusted the dog's instincts more than his own. He grabbed a heavy iron crowbar from his tool bag. "Move," Jack commanded softly. Titan stepped back. Jack jammed the crowbar behind the rotting wood and heaved. With a loud crack, the panel splintered and tore away. Behind it was not insulation, but cold, gray steel. A heavy blast door with a rotary handle. Jack wiped the dust from his face. A fallout shelter. He gripped the wheel and turned. The hinges screamed in protest, but the door swung open. A rush of stale air hit him. Jack descended the concrete steps, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. In the corner sat an old military safe. Jack cracked the lock in minutes. Inside, beneath stacks of dust, lay gold bars that gleamed dully. But Jack ignored the gold. His attention snapped to a manila folder marked Top Secret, 1985. He opened it. The first page bore a faded emblem, a dagger over a lightning bolt. Jack froze. His breath hitched. It was the insignia of his own unit, the unit that officially never existed. "I did not find this place by accident," Jack whispered, realizing the cruel joke of fate. Suddenly, the light bulb above him popped and died. The hum of the refrigerator upstairs cut out. Total darkness. Jack moved instantly. He scrambled up the stairs and flattened himself against the wall by the window, raising his thermal monocular. Through the lens, the snowy forest turned into a ghostly gray. 3 bright white heat signatures were moving through the trees. They spaced themselves perfectly, weapons raised. Professional mercenaries. And they were closing in. Panic is a death sentence. Jack felt the adrenaline flood his system, but he forced it into focus. He looked at Titan. The dog stood rigid, a silent shadow in the darkness, waiting for a command. "We are compromised," Jack said calmly. "Ambush positions." Titan moved instantly, slipping behind the heavy leather sofa, his eyes locked on the front door. Jack grabbed a metal bucket and filled it with water. He cracked the front door open just enough to pour the liquid over the stone porch steps. In the biting wind, the water froze instantly, turning the entrance into a sheet of invisible black ice. Next, Jack grabbed his high-intensity spotlight. He climbed onto a chair, stripped the wires of the hallway light fixture, and spliced the spotlight into the circuit. He aimed it directly at the door. Simple, brutal, effective. With the trap set, the silence returned. Jack stepped down and moved to Titan. He knelt on the rough floor, pressing his forehead against the dog's broad skull. He could feel the steady, strong beat of Titan's heart. "If they breach the door," Jack whispered, his voice rough with emotion, "you run to the woods. Do not look back." Titan rumbled a low sound deep in his chest. It was a refusal. The dog leaned forward and licked the jagged scar on Jack's hand. Jack smiled sadly in the dark. He checked the slide of his pistol. "Okay then," Jack said, "we hold the line." The blizzard battered the cabin walls, masking the sound of heavy boots crunching on the snow outside. Jack stood in the darkness of the hallway, his breathing shallow and controlled. Beside him, Titan was a statue of muscle and resolve, his ears swiveled toward the front door. Through the crack in the window boards, Jack watched the shadows detach themselves from the tree line. They moved with discipline. The first man stepped onto the porch, raising his boot to kick the door in. Suddenly, a hand shot out from the darkness behind him and grabbed his shoulder. It was the leader of the group. He was a tall, broad man wearing high-end white winter camouflage and night vision goggles. He pointed a gloved finger at the porch steps. Even in the gloom, the faint reflection of the black ice Jack had poured earlier was visible. "Careful," the leader said, his voice low and calm, carrying through the thin walls. "The old man is playing games. He wants us to slip. Go around the back." Jack tightened his grip on his pistol. These were not amateurs. They were hunters. He signaled to Titan, and they moved silently toward the kitchen at the rear of the cabin. The sound of shattering glass sliced through the tension as the rear window was smashed inward. A gloved hand reached in to undo the latch. The back door creaked open, letting in a swirl of snow and freezing wind. As the first mercenary stepped across the threshold, Jack flipped the switch on the wall. The rigged spotlight exploded into life. A beam of blinding, high-intensity white light seared through the hallway, hitting the intruders squarely in their night vision goggles. The men cried out, stumbling back, their tactical advantage turned into blinding pain. In that split second of chaos, Jack raised his weapon. He did not aim for the chest. He aimed for the heavy oak doorframe, inches from the lead mercenary's head. The deafening report of the handgun filled the small space. Wood splinters sprayed into the air like shrapnel. The mercenary froze, the bullet hole smoking beside his ear. "That was the warning," Jack growled from the shadows, his voice steady and cold as the grave. "The next one goes between your eyes. I do not want to add another body to my conscience on Christmas Eve. Leave. Now." The mercenaries scrambled back into the snow, seeking cover. But they did not run away. Jack could hear the leader shouting orders over the wind. They were regrouping. They knew where Jack was now, and they knew he was alone. Titan let out a deep, guttural growl, stepping in front of Jack, his teeth bared at the open door. The warning had been delivered, but the wolves were still hungry. The leader did not retreat. Instead, a metallic clatter echoed across the wooden floor as a canister rolled into the center of the room. A second later, a hissing sound filled the air, and the cabin was instantly swallowed by a thick, choking gray smoke. Jack coughed, his eyes stinging. He lost sight of the door. He lost sight of Titan. He was blind. Suddenly, a heavy weight slammed into him from the side, knocking the wind out of his lungs. Jack hit the floor hard. Above him, the leader emerged from the smoke like a phantom. The mercenary raised his heavy rifle high, reversing his grip to bring the solid steel stock crashing down onto Jack's skull. It was a killing blow, and Jack had no time to block it. But he was not alone. A gray blur launched itself through the haze. Titan, guided by scent and the sound of the wind cutting through the air, intercepted the strike. The heavy rifle stock slammed into the dog's shoulder with a sickening thud, the force absorbed partially by the tactical vest Jack had fashioned. but not enough to stop the pain. A sharp, high-pitched yelp of pain tore through the room. Titan was thrown sideways, crashing into the corner of the cabin. He landed heavily and did not rise. "Titan, no!" Jack screamed, the sound raw and terrified. The sight of his fallen companion ignited a cold, white-hot rage in Jack's chest. He did not feel fear anymore. He felt only the instinct to destroy. As the leader recovered his balance for another strike, Jack moved with the speed of a man possessed. He swept the mercenary's legs, sending him crashing to the floor. Before the man could recover, Jack was on top of him. He twisted the man's arm behind his back with a bone-straining wrench and pressed the cold muzzle of his pistol against the back of the leader's head. The room fell silent, save for the heavy breathing of the two men. Jack's finger tightened on the trigger. His hand trembled. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to pull it. This man had hurt Titan. This man deserved to die. The darkness of the war, the violence he had run from for 20 years, was right there, begging to be let out. Then a soft sound cut through the rage. It was a low, weak whimper from the corner. Jack froze. He looked over. Titan was lifting his head, his eyes seeking Jack's. The dog was alive. Jack let out a shuddering breath. The red haze in his vision cleared. He looked down at the man beneath him. If he pulled the trigger now, he would lose the only part of himself worth saving. He shifted his grip on the pistol. With a short, controlled motion, he brought the heavy grip down on the mercenary's temple. The man went limp instantly. Jack holstered his weapon and scrambled across the floor to the corner, ignoring the unconscious enemy, his heart pounding only for the wounded soldier in the corner. The storm broke just as the sun began to crest over the peaks of Iron Ridge. The blinding white snow sparkled under the clear blue sky, a peaceful counterpoint to the violence of the previous night. The silence of the mountain was replaced by the rhythmic thrum of a police helicopter circling overhead and the crunch of heavy tires on snow as FBI SUVs and local police cruisers filled the small clearing. Sheriff Miller, a thick-set man with a gray mustache, walked over to where Jack was standing. He watched as his deputies loaded the 3 handcuffed mercenaries into the back of a van. "You did the state a hell of a service, son," the sheriff said, extending a hand. "There is a substantial reward for these men, and the government is going to want to talk to you about what was in that safe. You are a hero." Jack looked at the sheriff's hand, then at the bullet holes riddling the front of his cabin. He did not shake the hand. "I do not want a reward, Sheriff," Jack said, his voice raspy and quiet. "I just want some peace." He turned his back on the law enforcement chaos and walked toward the porch. He sat down heavily on the top step, his joints aching from the cold and the fight. He struck a match and lit a small fire in a metal bucket to warm his hands. A moment later, the sound of uneven footsteps approached. Titan emerged from the house. The German shepherd was moving stiffly, favoring his bruised shoulder, but his head was held high. He sat down next to Jack, leaning his heavy weight against Jack's leg. Jack reached into the breast pocket of his flannel shirt. He pulled out a small, worn velvet box. He opened it to reveal a heart-shaped medal suspended from a purple ribbon, edged with gold. It was a Purple Heart, the medal given to those wounded in combat. Jack had carried it for 20 years, a reminder of the blood he had spilled and the friends he had lost. He looked at the medal, then at the dog who had taken a rifle stock to the ribs to save him. "This used to be mine," Jack whispered, his voice thick with emotion as he clipped the medal onto Titan's collar. "But today, you deserve it more, warrior." Titan looked up, his tail thumping once against the wooden planks. He licked Jack's hand, accepting the honor with quiet dignity. Jack wrapped his arm around the dog's neck, burying his face in the thick fur. For the first time in 2 decades, the crushing weight of isolation lifted from his chest. He looked out at the sunrise, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. "People say veterans always bring the war home with them," Jack thought as he watched the light touch the tree line. "But this morning, for the first time since I left the service, I realized something. I do not have to stand watch alone anymore." Jack thought he wanted silence, but what he really needed was a brother to break it. Sometimes the heroes who save us do not carry weapons. They carry wagging tails and hearts that never waver. If Titan's bravery resonated with you, please honor him with a like and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that they are never truly alone. To keep these fireside stories alive, please subscribe to our channel and join us in the next adventure appearing on your screen right now.